fly. Learning to fly, Mr. Philip Hodgson.
Did you know it took Marco Polo 3 years to reach China? 3 years. You and I, we can just fly there in 16 hours. Well, when I say fly, not literally, of course. We have to acknowledge it's the engines in the plane that make the plane overcome the drag from the air and then fly high on its chosen destination. Wouldn't it be just great? Just imagine this. If you and I only had to overcome the drag of air resistance in order for us to fly high, powered perhaps just by the engines of our ambitions. Well, to come back down to earth perhaps, flying is great, but it does have its ups and downs. For example, you should have been there the last time I flew long haul. After takeoff, I settled into my seat and started to snooze. The stewardess asked, "Do you want some dinner?" And I replied, "What are my options?" She said, "Yes or no." She was more entertainment than the in-flight movie. Of course, when we fly, sometimes people say, "Will you come with me on a trip?" And that's exactly what happened to me. My girlfriend said, "Will you come with me on a trip to China?" China? Yes, of course, Melanie, I will. I would love to. Can you imagine flying to China? The Great Wall, calligraphy, the tea ceremony, the terracotta warriors, above all, Hong Kong Disneyland. All I have to do is pack the bare necessities. The bare necessities, the bare necessities. So anyway, off we were. We set off on our big day, and we set off early for the airport, riding in Melanie's Saab. Just a third of the way on the trip, a terrible thought occurred to me. Oh, I've forgotten my immigration card. A non-US citizen must present the immigration card upon arrival and departure. Well, as you can see, the immigration card is pink on the front, pink on the rear, totally pink. That's why the government calls it the green card. We had no choice. We had to go back to our development. As I was about to drive into the development, because of the snow, Mao said, "Use the exit." I was too late. I drove into the entrance and into the snow. Mel leaned across, held my hand, and whispered in my ear, "Use the exit." It was a Saab, and as you know, the Saabs are made in Sweden. They can cope with snow, they just can't drive through it. My fault. I should have flown. We dug ourselves out, I retrieved the car, and then we resumed our journey. Did I mention that this was the morning of Thanksgiving Day? Because of the lapse of time, there was now much greater volume of traffic on the road. At one point, we were just inching along the New Jersey Turnpike, just inching along. Mel sat there all rigid with her arms just like this. Eventually, we arrived at the airport. I threw the car into short-term parking, where the daily rate is a very reasonable $327, and we ran like blazes for the terminal. In the check-in, surprisingly, everything was deserted. There was just one custom service agent, reeking of stale perfume. I believe her fragrance was eau de cadaver. She told us, "No, the counter to accept bags closed a minute ago." Mel said, "Open the counter, ask them to reopen the counter." Well, Continental Airlines has some of the finest customer service agents in the industry. Unfortunately, this wasn't one of them. No, she would not reopen the counter, but she told us helpfully, "Oh, you have a choice. I can either give you tickets for you to fly tomorrow, or if you're willing to fly without your bags, you can still travel today." Now, China is known for making clothes quickly and cheaply. Do you think she would be willing to travel without her bags? Oh, you've got to be joking. No. As we drove home, The temperature outside the car was 30 degrees. Inside, even with the heaters on, it was about minus 3,000. And that was on the warm side where I was sitting. Of course, I could point to the snow, the traffic, the airline themselves. Mel said kindly, "I can't believe they wouldn't reopen the baggage desk." And in that moment, I couldn't deny things any longer. My worst habit was bad time management. If I had only taken the time to pack properly the night before, we would have never had to go back. My worst habit is time management. I dare say that everyone in this room has a habit which holds them back, which keeps them grounded and prevents them from flying high. I said to Mel, "I'm reading a book at the moment, and in the book, Aristotle said the hardest battle is a battle over oneself. The advice is you can't change your habits, but you can apply a counteracting force." I promised to write a message to myself, to remind myself to be on time. As I turned the pages on my calendar, I promised to write the message, "Be early." That's my counteracting force. Toastmasters, how about you? What's your counteracting force? That day, by the time we got home, we should have had our Thanksgiving Day dinner. She didn't feel like turkey. I felt like I was a turkey. Hey, isn't a turkey a flightless bird? But the next day, we got to the airport on time. Mrs. Stale Perfume was not there, probably going through a car wash. I was able to park in long-term parking, so I just needed a small loan. The flight was great, China was great, Mel was great, and when I look in the mirror, I think I can see a small habit shrinking, and my chance to fly growing.